United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Any public comment on agenda items? All right, we'll move on to consensus items.
Well, besides the fact that there are a lot of consensus items, because that last month, since our last meeting, we have hired a lot of people. I think we're just a couple classified positions short right now from having a full roster, but I don't have any of note that I need to make any special comment. We're very glad for everyone we have and are very excited to welcome everyone aboard.
Okay. Any questions, or there are a lot, any questions or comments or motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
Motion by Eric, is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Eric, seconded by Jill to approve the consensus items as presented. All those in favor announce by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Approved 4-0. Next item is a program update from Tiffany.
Hi everyone, I wanted to just take a few minutes today to run through some updates for our programming and assessments for this upcoming school year. We have a lot of changes, but some that will be pretty familiar to you, I think. So we'll start with our, there we go. With the slide that you might remember from last year, it is our slide that we talked about what our plan would be for this new iLearn rollout. So it's review, prepare, and perform. So we are definitely going to continue to look at our data from last year as well as the new data that we're going to glean from iLearn, and we'll talk about what that's going to look like in just a few slides. And we're going to continue to do our best to prepare our students as we have in the past, and we're going to be looking at how we're preparing them and make sure we're aligning to the assessment that we're going to talk about. And obviously we're going to perform, and we're going to talk to our students about our assessments and how we're taking those tests seriously and what it looks like to be a brave during testing. That is definitely an important part as well. So before we can jump into this upcoming year, let's take a look back at the assessment data from last year. So last year we had, these are cohorts. You can see kind of going the stair step pattern down. So you can see our district percentage on average was, or for the district in ELA was 38.6. For the state it was 41.0. Math 33.9 and 40.7. To give you a little bit of context, during this same cohort group that you see here from 21 to 24, we have been as far below the state average in ELA is 7.2, and this year we're 2.4% below the district or the state average. And in math, we've been as far away as 9.8. This year 6.8. So we're closing the gap. We're obviously we're not where we want to be, but we are continuing to close that gap. So I will say we're going to jump into some more assessment data, but iLearn Science and iLearn Biology have not been released yet by the state. So that's why we're not going to talk about those quite yet. So another one that's not going to be out until after the State Board of Ed meeting this month actually are our iRead results. So once those are released, we can probably share those during one of the next upcoming board meetings. So this is another assessment that we have, and this is what we have used quite heavily in the past for our students. Our NWEA achievement is something that we look at as teachers especially. It shows our growth from where our students begin and our students end the year. It gives us that quantitative data that we can say, okay, here's your goal. And it's roughly about 7 points that we want students to grow, to just maintain their growth in that same percentile from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. So this is achievement. So what you're seeing up here is the average achievement percent for North Adams. So kindergarten, we were in the 56th percentile at the beginning of the year in 21, 22, and then we were in the 65th percentile at the end of the year. So that's where we really want to see the number at the end of the year obviously be much higher than the end. The color is stair-stepped by cohort, so you can kind of track the students who right now are in 3rd grade. You can go back and you can follow that rose-ish color back and see their scores the last 3 years. What I will say is it's positive to see that we are seeing some growth. That summer slide and beginning of year assessment, we really want to see that number not go quite down so much from the end of year score from the last year. Back to our state assessments. We have continued to do a great job at the high school. We had great results in EBRW, which is your writing ELA assessment, and math, some of our highest scores ever. So we're really excited about that. And then we get to jump into our new testing model. This is that fun iLearn. So as a reminder, we have iLearn and we have opted into the checkpoints. So what that's going to look like is it is 3 assessments throughout the year that are only ELA and math. They're going to be shorter assessments than the end of year assessment that spans multiple days. So those are going to be taken at 3 different points throughout the year. And then at the end of the year, we're going to, since it's the first year, they're requiring everyone to take that 4th full iLearn assessment, because that is still going to be the measure for the schools who did not opt into the checkpoints. That's that accountability feature or measure. So to give you kind of an idea of what our testing calendars look like, that is a snapshot of all 3 of the schools and when their assessments are. So Belmont Elementary, as you can see, it's a little hard, even beginning yesterday, we started our NWEA and BAS windows. So we are already beginning that beginning of year assessment, so that way we can get our students baseline. We're going to have all of September, pretty much, without any testing, and then we are going to jump into our first iLearn checkpoint just before fall break. Now that window for iLearn, that first checkpoint, spans multiple months, but we also didn't want to have our students come back from fall break and begin testing. And you also then have to balance out when you're going to take the second checkpoint. Do you take it after Christmas break? Do you take it before? So it kind of is a balancing act. And the positive for this year is we get to try it out, and there's not going to be an accountability piece. So if we say, gosh, this didn't work, or we need an extra week buffer for our makeups, then we can move our window forward. So that is one positive of us taking the checkpoints this year. The 2 weeks that we have highlighted there, that is where we are looking at in the elementary and the middle school. That's where we're looking at actually assessing our students and trying to get makeups in. One thing that, if you've been in the school setting, you know when we have small groups and individualized testing accommodations that we have to meet, that makes our testing window quite large and makes staffing a little tricky, but our team's great. They do a wonderful job of planning it out and being creative to make sure we're providing the students the best testing environment, but also making sure that we are compliant with our timelines. You will notice up there, we have dyslexia in the elementary as well, so that's already planned out. One thing that will be different next year is that this will be our last year for NWEA in grades 3 through 8. And the reason that we are continuing this year is to make sure that we do have the data to show and monitor student growth, because we are still unsure about exactly how the iLearn checkpoint data is going to be able to help us if we have MTSS needs, or if we have students that we're looking at for high ability. We still also need that additional data point, so that way we still have it. So it will be more assessment than in the future this year for those students, but it's just because we want to make sure we can continue to identify students and make sure they're supported. But next year we will be going away from NWEA in grades 3 through 8, but we'll still have it for K through 2. And then students in grades 9 and 10 will still take the PSAT, and that's all supported through the formative assessment grade.
Tiffany, could you take just a moment, and I apologize if you're going to do this, and kind of explain just a little bit more what these iLearn checkpoints are and what the difference is between what we've been doing and what this new format will look like?
So the iLearn checkpoints are going to be about 45 minutes to an hour, they say, for ELA and for math. So that's very different, and they're not going to have the additional writing component that we have had in the long form. Those are just the checkpoints. In the spring, we'll still have that full CAT and performance assessment that we have to complete. So that is where that's why we can shorten that testing window down to about 2 weeks, where if you look at the spring assessment window, it is quite long, but that's because we have ELA and math, and they both have CAT and PT tests. And so we have to accommodate those, and then we also have our science and our social studies assessments that we are providing too. So it is going to be a shorter assessment, however, it is not going to be as easy to navigate as maybe an NWEA, that we can be a little more flexible on testing, or if a student needs a makeup, they can go, next door into somebody's classroom that has a study hall and take it. We can pause it at the end of that period and have them come back. So it gets a little different in that capacity, but the goal is to measure growth from the beginning of the year to show mastery on the standards from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. One other thing that we also have to kind of plan for is students that we may get that transfer in, is that if they have not had that checkpoint in their other school, we have to make sure that they have had it as well. So that is something that our staff's going to have to really be mindful of, and be monitoring those students that come in, and that we get data from their prior schools about where our assessment schedule is looking.
So once they take the test, how long does it take to get the results back?
It should be pretty quick. I'm not sure this first time how quickly we're going to be able to get them back. I think it just depends on everybody's windows. I think we can get individual scores back pretty quickly. However, the norms, they're saying that their ideal time will be before the next checkpoint, but we'll wait and see. So I'm hopeful that we'll get some good data, but we know that this is a test year for everyone, and so this will hopefully get us our benchmark for next year. So when we're seeing our scores from students this year, we should see something similar for next year. And they're saying that our new iLearn checkpoint data is going to be similar and help us monitor student progress similarly to NWEA. So we're excited to see, and we're hopeful that it's going to continue. So with those assessment goals, we are of course going to continue to monitor our elementary and middle school assessment data for graduation rate, which is of course something we're really proud of, remaining over 95%, and that our SAT data continues to grow, because of course that's what we want, right? We just see our kids at Belmont do great things. What I will say is, as we are looking at the supporting actions for this, it has been a lot of conversation and things that you've probably heard time and time again with our scope and sequence. I think the reason I want to make sure that you know that it's on there is that we have been working on it, but we are also continuing to monitor with the iLearn blueprints that they've provided to make sure that our scope and sequence is matching up with our pacing, to make sure we're hitting all of our checkpoint 1 standards, and that we have enough time, that we don't need to move that assessment back. So that's why it's staying on there, because if we need to move it back another week or two, if we can, and it doesn't butt up to a break, we would do that if we have a bigger, heavier load of standards. So it's that continued monitoring for those standard, or for that scope and sequence, because we did have to do some shifting last year in the spring to make sure that we were ready for the checkpoints this year, because what our pacing will look like may not have been how the state said the checkpoints were going to go. So teachers went back and made sure that the standards that they're teaching, say in the first 2 months of school, are the standards that are going to be assessed there right before fall break. Where if they were doing something, in January, but it's going to be on that first checkpoint. We want to make sure we're preparing our students actively. So that's why that's staying on there. Something that we have been working toward are our prioritized outcomes. That's our first steps in our vertical alignment. So that's where each grade level is going to be picking the 5 highest priority things that their students need to be able to learn. It's the big picture things that they need to be able to perform at the end of the year. An example would be reading our red words. So that would be something that we would have as one of our grade level prioritized outcomes. Then for the next year, it would be, okay, building on those red words and what do we need to do? So that way we can really make sure we're preparing students from grade K through 8 and then building into our high school courses to make sure that we're growing those and making it more sequential and not just continuing to grow that. Grade 9 through 12, we're continuing with making sure that all of our core courses have their SWIFT and CFLITs and their common formative assessments, and that 80% of our elective courses are going to be completed through that as well. Again, our lagging measures are those same assessment goals that we saw from before. So one other thing that I will say that's not a data piece that I want to share, that as we've kind of begun the school year and kind of looked at, okay, how's the school year starting and what are we going to be doing to make sure that we're reaching our goals? I asked several teachers and administrators throughout the building, hey, how's it going? How's the year started? And I know Kim's probably going to talk about this in a bit, but it overwhelmingly this has been the best start to the school year we've ever had. And so I'm very excited about that. There are conversations that are happening about programming across the district, and I know that the elementary is talking about how it's a renewed emphasis. They've started a new tradition with our kickoff, with our kickball kickoff, and that was a great time. I'm sure Dave can attest to that. And middle school is going to be starting a principals advisory committee, and it's going to be students that are not necessarily on student council. It might be students who are new or don't typically have a voice. That Christy's going to be starting that program. And the high school, and as you're around, you're going to hear it, they're really working to create a culture of excellence. And so I don't know if there's anything tangible that we can put to that. Campus looks great. I know it's been something that several people have commented on, but it's just, Belmont's really a place that we're proud to be, and so we're excited for this year.
That's awesome.
Any questions or? Yes.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for what you do and what the teachers do with this, but do you ever feel like there's too much time spent testing and not enough time spent learning?
Well, that might have been a
I was looking at your
conversation that we
calendars.
went-
Yeah, I was looking at your
we were having
calendars.
Just yesterday, yes, yes. That is a big concern of ours, which is why some schools have chosen to go away from NWEA. However, if we are not sure that we're going to be able to have the data to make sure we're supporting our students, both with the growth and making sure we're monitoring, that's why we have just made the decision to continue with NWEA. I'm hopeful that as we go and we don't have that, it will be at least a little reprieve for those grades, but
Well, in my
Yes.
limited knowledge, the NWEA is probably the best one of this whole batch that you've got up there, but.
I can't contradict my
I know.
my feelings on that.
Yeah,
Uh,
because that
Thank
does
you.
show growth. I appreciate that one. I always like watching when my children would bring that home and watching the growth in the different years, but
Yes,
boy, that calendar looks tough.
it does, and I will definitely say that our team at the elementary and middle school especially are doing a phenomenal job of talking of how we can be creative to make sure that we are still providing instruction and not pulling everyone. Gives that supplementary instruction to make sure that those makeups are given. It's a puzzle, to be sure, but they do a fantastic job, and they've already started talking, and I know I was speaking to Renee just a little bit ago, and they have had some great conversation about what programming is going to look like while maintaining, the student testing.
No, you guys do a great job with it.
No,
And the students and the scores have shown that over the last few
Oh,
years,
thank
so
you.
it's good. It's just like, wow.
Yes, as we put the colors in there, it was
Yeah.
kind of going, oh, I think
Glad I'm not
getting bigger and bigger.
glad I'm not an elementary yet. Yeah, I'm a middle school student.
Yeah, I We don't really know where the emphasis to decrease testing went. That seemed to be a discussion a few years ago, and but what gets measured gets done, so we're hopeful that it's a good test, proves to be a good test with good data that helps drive instruction. That's our hope.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tiffany.
Can you send the form to the board? Can you send it to the board?
Absolutely. Tiffany, they're asking that we send this to them.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. It should have, yes, yes, send it, right.
Thanks, Tiffany.
Okay, so we don't have any old business. We'll move on to new business. The first item is personnel assignment.
There was an additional personnel assignment that we had to run through new business that's in your packet, and I am recommending that you accept that assignment.
Okay. Any questions or comments or motion to approve the assignment?
Make a motion to approve.
Okay, motion by Eric,
I'll second.
second by Dave. Motion by Eric, seconded by Dave to approve the personnel assignment as noted. All those in favor, announce by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Approved 4-0. Next up is consideration of recommendations regarding applications for commemoration and naming of school facilities.
So we have one application to consider. You have that application and have had access to that application, and the recommendation and reasoning behind that recommendation is in your packet. And so we just need, again, a motion to approve, and then it as written, or again, you have other options as board members, should you wish.
Okay?
This is a reference to application number 2.
Yes, this is in reference to application number 2.
I make a motion that we accept the committee's nomination, or, I'm sorry, the committee's recommendation as written.
Okay. Motion by Eric to accept the committee's recommendation. Is there a second or a different motion?
Second.
Seconded by Jill. Motion by Eric, seconded by Jill to accept the committee's nomination, to accept the committee's recommendation as written. All those in favor announce by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Approved 4-0.
What is that? What do you get renamed? Who is it named after?
That's something I can talk to you more so about after the meeting.
Oh, okay. What do you do during the meeting? Okay.
Next up on the agenda is the approval of additional curricular costs for the district.
We did have a change in one of our business courses, a couple of our business courses at the high school that are impacted by a specific curriculum that was adopted. We had typically received community donations for that, and this year we still receive generous community donations, but not enough to fund the entire amount. So we are going to have to change the amount of per pupil costs that we had requested at the May board meeting. So this is just to allow us to have permission to purchase that curriculum and pay for it.
Okay. Any questions or comments or a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Jill, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Dave. Motion by Jill, seconded by Dave to approve the additional curricular costs to the district. All those in favor announce by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Approved 4-0. Next item is the approval of the MOU with Crossroads Children and Family Services.
So as I said in my notes, we don't normally bring this before the board, but have decided that it would be best practice to do so. There are times when we have children who are placed either by family or by other agencies in our community in different settings. When these settings provide educational services, they do bill us for the educational portion of that student's education. And so we do have one student right now attending this facility, and So basically, the MOU just spells out our responsibilities and their responsibilities toward that student's education. There is a financial component, as I said, and we do transport that student to and from each day.
Any questions or comments or a motion to approve?
Let's see for. Did you assume you read it?
We've received
Okay.
the same MOU
Yeah.
multiple.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, motion by Eric, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Dave. Motion by Eric, seconded by Dave to approve the MOU with Crossroads Children and Family Services. All those in favor announce by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Approved 4-0. Next item is the approval of the 24-25 classified rate schedule.
So there were some changes made to, I think, two of the things you voted on in July, which are the ones that are staying the same are still in yellow or white. In trying to not have to bring this before you again, I hope, I went ahead and Beth and I have been working on the budget and felt that we were in a position that we could go ahead and project what our raises would be for all classified staff for the year. And so those things are in blue. I had given some information to you earlier in the summer on our strategic plan about areas that I felt that we needed to improve fairly significantly compared to area schools, that being secretaries, paraprofessionals, and secretaries, paraprofessionals, custodial and grounds, excuse me. So we did work really hard to try to find a more significant increase there than they've seen in a while. And then again, some other positions. We have a really good staff. It is getting harder and harder in this day and age to retain staff, and the need to remain somewhat competitive is necessary, especially when oftentimes you're having even fast food restaurants paying a fairly decent wage. We need to remain competitive for folks to feel it's worth their time and energy to come here and work here. So you also, I think I noted this in July, the auditors always want to see that every single thing that we would pay someone is noted somewhere. And so we added several things like our daycare food service usually has kind of done their thing because they self-support with their own revenue, but they want that on a readily accessible form to kind of see what, and that you approved whatever we are paying people.
Any questions or comments or a motion to approve the classified rate schedule?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Jill, is there a second?
A second.
A second by Dave. Motion by Jill, second by Dave to approve the 24-25 classified rate schedule. All those in favor announce by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Approved 4-0. Next item is the approval of the athletic training services agreement with the Adams Memorial Hospital.
So this was a late addition. We did receive this from them yesterday and had Scott look over it. We are very happy to welcome an athletic trainer. We've gone without one for some time, and she's already been on the job and working and helping our fall athletes, and very thankful for our partnership with Adams County Memorial Hospital for supplying us with someone. I know it has taken quite a bit of energy and effort to recruit an athletic trainer. Evidently, there's not a lot of people going into that field any longer, but they did, and she seems to be doing wonderfully. So this just includes the MOU that the hospital and we entered into starting last year. We hadn't had an MOU for years and then decided that probably is not a good idea. So I did clarify a couple things with them, just making sure that, for example, we have MOUs for mental health services and behavioral services, and that is not going to be compromised by this agreement. And some of the promotional things they put on there are applicable only to athletic events. and I'm agreeable to that, especially if they're paying a lot of money for this position out of their accounts to give us this service, so I certainly have no problem recognizing them for such.
Provide the services at no cost. Provide the services at no cost to the school, .3.
And it's a lot of hours,
Yeah.
because they come to most games, events, they're there before, most days before practices start. So no small.
And I have not met the new one, but my daughter has already been to see her, and I know that she will see, just like Deanna did, an incredible number of athletes.
Yes.
and students.
Yes.
She will see so many student athletes
What's her name?
in the next year.
Harlan, Megan Harlan? Bethany Harlan, I'm sorry, I knew the last name, I should know the first name, it escaped me. Bethany Harlan. I've not had a chance to meet her yet, but we are. And I also want to take this moment to thank Deanna, because she
Oh, yeah.
continued to come and work for us even after she had retired, resigned, whatever, to do the things that she wanted to do next in life, but she didn't leave us high and dry, so we're very thankful for her. She's done a great job for us over the years, and I know she was instrumental in keeping a lot of our athletes healthy and avoiding injuries and helping recoveries. So we appreciate her a lot.
Any other questions or comments or motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Jill, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Eric, motion by Jill, seconded by Eric to approve the athletic training service agreement with Adams County Memorial Hospital. All those in favor announce by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Approved 4-0. Next item is
And
the,
Kim, she'll be doing multiple sports, I guess, 8 or 10 or 12 sports,
All of them.
all of them, swimming.
She might not go to all their meets, but she provides services to all athletes before practices and events.
Do you have spelling for her name?
I believe it's Harlan.
Oh, no,
Bethany, I think,
Harlan,
is
okay.
Betha,
Harlan.
A-N.
like Harlan, Kentucky, I think.
okay. Next item in the agenda is the approval of donation.
We want to thank Bungie for their $1,000 donation toward the BHS Building Trades Construction Lab. We are continuing to try to see what we can do there, and have had some meetings recently with Bart & Co. and trying to see what we're really speccing out here. So that continues to go along, but again, want to thank them for their generous donation.
Is there a motion to approve the donation?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Dave, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Eric. Motion by Dave, second by Eric to approve the donation of $1,000 from Bungie for BHS Building Trade Construction Lab. All those in favor announce by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Approved 4-0. Next up is our superintendent's report.
Well, I can tell you the month of July, since our last meeting, has gone by in a blur. July always does fly, but I swear this one seemed like they had to take some days away. Somewhere it went so fast. But I'll echo what Tiffany said. It's almost, I need to knock on wood everywhere, that the start has been remarkably smooth for having all the harried preparations for everything. So some positives, I want to say we had great attendance at our back to school nights and open houses and backpack bash. Saw lots of kids and families there and really appreciated that. Kids had fun, I think, and got to meet our new principal at Backpack Bash with popsicles with the principal, and that was a great thing. I think the kids liked the popsicles and Mr. Ernie's balloons, which I'm going to go ahead and own. I had to help him blow up balloons and found out that is not my calling. And I told him if he was going to get paid for this, that I would have lost him money, because I think I popped more than I blew up for him. But I appreciate him because he's always willing to come to our events and do that, and kids love that, those balloon animals and balloon figures. We had enough bus drivers this year to get all the students out first round, so that's been wonderful, and you can tell just a huge difference at the end of day with kids' energy and attitude and staff energy. I am still going to stop and make a plug, however, because we are still in dire need of bus subs and will be in the next couple years in need of bus drivers. today, last night, we had one of our drivers, unfortunately, and sending out get well soon wishes, have to be hospitalized for pneumonia. And one of our others, our one and only sub that's available this week is also ill. So the transportation team, special ed department, preschool department, school secretaries, administrators, Scott Miller, grounds guys, everyone who could drive a bus was driving a bus or helping get things figured out for how kids could get home. So I appreciate that for sure.
Hey, Kim, how many drivers do you have overall? The number, how many total?
I knew you were going to
25
ask.
or
No, we don't have that many. We have 1, 2, 3, 4.
Never heard numbers before.
We have 16 regular route drivers.
16 very good. How many subs? Just the one?
One that has been available, 2 that are sometimes available when they're not traveling, and another that is on sick leave as well. So technically, this week we have 0. But again, everybody pulled together. We got the kids home, got them figured out where they lived. Aides and parents were willing to ride buses to make sure that they could help the sub bus driver, emergency bus driver navigate the route, those things.
So we can say there are no teachers driving bus this year, is that right?
Oh, no, there are more than, we have 5.
5 teachers.
5 teachers and 2 administrators.
2 administrators, wow.
So it's all hands on deck. But I will add that we have been working really hard to improve the compensation of our bus. So anyone that has a desire for a part-time or even a full-time job, we have 2 positions that are basically all day that you can make more than a living wage at. And then another 5 to 6 positions that are part-time that are still good side income. So if you have a desire to supplement for 1.5 to 3 hours a day, it's a great job. And our county routes are not that full, and our kids are really well behaved. And I would encourage anybody that's interested for a supplemental low hour job to come check it out. We always are in need. Or a sub, again. Subs make $87 a day. That's not,
Really, the subs,
not bad.
$87 a day?
Yeah. Oh, and then I'm still talking. So that was just about, and the teacher work day, we tried to shake it up a little bit that first work day, because usually we try to bring a guest speaker in, and decided we're not going to do that this year. And I knew that I can talk some, but I was no guest speaker or no motivational speaker. So we made a Jeopardy game for the whole district staff to compete. About 90 of them got to participate, and we had prizes and things. But we had lots of questions about the history of North Adams and procedures and information about, do you know about our tax system and things like that. And so I think they all had a really good time, but probably the most raucous question that had the most chatter going on was the $500 history of North Adams question was, where does the name Belmont come from? It surprised me that very few knew that. We did have Jenny Baczynski get it correct, but it was from Belmont Park, which was a former harness racing track on this campus before it became a school campus, and that's why we have the name Belmont, which for a lot of people probably like, where did that come from? So that was fun. And again, tried to mix it up, add some levity, and then the staff worked really hard for those 2 days. Our transportation department's been working hard. We have a new system called TransFinder. It's a software program that takes downloads of our addresses from our registration files. And Scott Miller had to spend a lot of time in the background configuring it, but then it spits out bus stop, bus number, bus driver, times, and it puts it in Power School twice a day. It updates it as it gets updated. So because it's always terribly hectic every year to try to figure out kids' bus tags. And so this allows you to just print off a tag report, stickers, and every day pretty easily. And
I also felt from a safety standpoint, we never had a really good situation of having readily available bus rosters. Not that they're ever 100% correct, because you don't always know who's going to get on, who doesn't, but to have a starting point to say this is who could and should be on this bus, if we would have a crisis situation, is very important. So that went a lot better, and I think was a lot less stressful for teachers. Then the kids came, and usually, this is the first year we haven't had a change in Zoom queue or how we're doing drop-off pickup, and I was really like, where's all the calls at? Where's all the kids at? Where's all the problems at? And it really, not to say that it went perfectly, but it went extremely smoothly, especially for the first few days of school. And so, again, that's a knock on wood, because it's almost eerie that when's the shoe gonna drop? But our parents were wonderful, our kids have been wonderful. Walked into we helped the littles a lot those first few days, so a lot, Tiffany and I are over there quite a bit, just doing what we can do, and walking into kindergarten rooms, and it's like they've been there, like I told them, 100 days instead of just a half hour. They were quiet and attending and doing what they were supposed to be doing, and same thing with the other classrooms, so that was always fun to see. And so very excited and very happy to see what's happening. We started picture days Friday with the high school. Today was the elementary, and the middle school is tomorrow. I think we'll round it out then, and then it's on to the race toward Labor Day and our first short break. But so far, kids are doing awesome, and like Tiffany shared, we've got a lot of work to do. But you know, in my house, we're working on sight words and spelling and writing, and right in the next few weeks. So welcome to everyone. Erin's hitting the ground running in high school athletics. Lots of learning happening there, but they're doing really well. I don't know if you had a chance to, in communications, Justin is dropping a new podcast this year. I don't know, how often are you planning on doing that, Justin, again?
Bi-weekly.
Bi-weekly. So he's having students, for the most part, do a podcast interview with him, and some of the the focus is on kids and extracurriculars. So yes, sports, but also FFA and rifle team, bowling, maybe, I don't know, so student council, band choir, and just talk about their experience and what those experiences have brought to them and how it's helped them grow. And so I just listened to the one today with senior Gavin Kroll talking about his experience in starting football. He's a senior, but it's only his second year playing football, but what it's brought to him and taught him, and so it's really interesting. And so that's just another thing to help showcase our kids and showcase our programs. So excited for that.
What's the podcast called? Just got a name for it?
Braves Breakdown.
Braves Breakdown.
It's on YouTube and Spotify.
YouTube and Spotify. Either of which I use.
Library.
I don't even know what that means.
Breakdown.
So with that, we also had I did want to start this year, the district newsletter. We sent out the first one of those at the end of July, just to try to get everybody ready for that. We'll drop the next one either late September or early October, just to get ready for testing and things happening. And again, the idea being trying to give folks the 30,000 foot view of what's happening here at North Adams and need to knows. Some interesting reading, but really just to make it a lot more, I guess, have the ability to curate it more for what your own interests are. You can scroll through what you're not interested in, click on what you are interested in. It's really scannable, trying to make it more user-friendly than having to listen to an 8-minute video or voice message or something like that. So I'm excited about those things. Good. Right now, we're here, we're going, everything's moving fast. And I didn't talk too much about elementary had their first annual kickball tournament to celebrate the first week of school on Friday, and got to play with some of those kids, and that was really fun, and they did really well, and they had such a good time, and I was really excited for them. And it was just a half hour per grade level, but again, those celebrations are worthwhile, of having good, clean fun. You need to work hard, but there's a time to play too and enjoy yourself. And every kid got a chance to kick and outfield, and
I think the older they got, the more serious they took it, and more competitive they were, from what I've heard. But that's all right, that's part of it too. And our middle schoolers in PE came out and helped facilitate with the littles, because there were just, yeah, and they did an awesome job. They were helping the kids know when to run and how to kick, and helping them kind of keep corralled. But they were super, super patient with them, and so kind and so encouraging. So big kudos out to them too.
That's great.
What a great
And I think
start.
that's it. It was a great start. We had a lot of fun last week. It was tiring, but we had a lot of fun.
Good. Okay. Any other matters to come before the board? Any board member or public comment? Okay, we'll adjourn the meeting.